Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Hey guys, this is Chase Tyler, and you are listening to Local Leaders, the podcast.
Hi, I'm Trisha Johnston, residential realtor with Ladder & Bloom with your real estate tip of the week. If you've been considering buying investment rental properties, now is a great time to do it. Many areas have seen a 10% or more increase in rental rates over the past 12 months, and occupancy rates are very high. The biggest challenge in finding a rental property is this low inventory we have. However, a great way to overcome that obstacle is if you're willing to buy a fixer-upper. Most buyers are looking for move-in ready homes, so if you are interested in a property that needs a little work, you'll have less competition from other buyers. When you own rental property, you not only generate that monthly income and have some potential tax benefits. If you buy in an area where future resale value is strong, you could also realize a gain when you sell the property in the future. If you're interested in getting started in investment properties, just give me a call. I'll be happy to help. I'm Trisha Johnston with Ladder & Bloom, and I'll be back here next week with another real estate tip for you.
Hi, folks. I want to tell you about Denham Springs Fit Body Boot Camp and their 28-day, $77 Jumpstart program. There's no strings attached and really no reason not to try. You can be in and out in just 30 minutes, and best of all, these 30-minute sessions are scheduled throughout the mornings and evenings to fit your busy schedule. These 30-minute sessions are fun, positive, encouraging, and you can even sign up online. Just visit getfitdenhamsprings.com. Denham Springs Fit Body Boot Camp, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Hey, and welcome to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And today we have Miss Katie Jenkins from Grace Therapy Center with us. She's going to tell us all about her business. So first of all, welcome to Local Leaders.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
We are as well. Your business is one that we love to feature on this show because it requires a little bit of understanding from people so they can kind of grasp exactly what it is, what you do. So we're going to talk all about that, all about the amazing services you offer at Grace Therapy. But first, we're going to tell people a little bit more about you. You're married?
I am married.
And you have a couple kids?
2 kids, 5 and 6.
2 kids.
Yep.
Apples of your eye, I'm sure.
Sure thing, most days.
Yes. And I sent out your questionnaire and I kind of got a chuckle because I asked you what your hobbies were. And much like most business people, you were like, I love to read. No other hobbies other than being a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Hobbies kind of, you ain't fishing every Friday.
Not right now. I used to love gyms and triathlons and all that takes too much time at this point. So
that's right. But
it'll come back later.
That's it. That's right. You got to build it. Now, professionally, you are the owner of Grace Therapy Center, which for those people that may or may not be familiar, it's on Behringer Foreman in Baton Rouge. kind of by Woman's Hospital, is it? Is it around that area?
Yeah, not far. Right by Klein Peter Dairy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Everybody knows where that is. And your official title there is a board certified behavioral analyst. And I practiced that about 20 times because I kept wanting to say behavior.
Behavior's right.
Oh, it is? Yeah. So it's not behavioral. Okay. Ooh, I was right the first time. That never happens. Behavior analyst. And there's actually an acronym for that. What is that?
A BCBA.
Yeah, it was funny because when you and I were talking originally, you were using a lot of the acronyms, and I didn't know what the acronyms was. So you were like, ABA. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
So we're going to explain all of that to people as well. Now, first, I want to cover what led you kind of into choosing this field, because it's kind of an interesting story. So give us the breakdown of how you eventually became a behavior analyst.
Sure. So in college, I had a few jobs. One of them included working with a child with special needs. And so I was kind of like a caregiver, nanny type of role. And then I also worked like at a country club, just waiting tables. And so kind of trying to meet people and different things like that. And so I ended up meeting a couple who their daughter was opening a therapy clinic. And they said, hey, you like kids? Maybe you should work here. And so I got in touch with her.
That is the main qualification, right? You gotta like kids.
Exactly, definitely. So then that kind of moved on from there, and I fell in love with it. Went to my got my master's in behavior analysis and took my board exams, and here I am. And
here you are. Yeah. And, a lot of people out there, they may not be familiar with exactly what a behavior analyst is. So, let's kind of start with that. Kind of explain exactly what they do and all those sorts of things.
Sure. So ABA, I guess we'll start there maybe with what applied behavior analysis is. It's basically a way of teaching. It's a science, so everything is data-based. But we take big, large goals, break them down into small, achievable goals. That's really the overall picture of ABA. So ABA is used in big companies. It's used for kids with autism. Honestly, it's used for dogs and dog training and animal training.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, it really is. It has to do with the science of human behavior, the science of animal behavior. And so it just happens to work for everyone, but it's been research-based and proven to work with kids with autism and other kind of learning differences.
Interesting. And how long has that science been studied?
So it's been around for a really long time. However, I wouldn't say we want to attribute everything to way back in the day, because it started with shock therapy and the things that people are kind of scared of, obviously, for obvious reasons. No, but I always encourage people who are looking in ABA to be careful what they Google, because you'll find people who are still really against ABA and the old school approaches to that, and that's just not what we do now. And so I think it's part of my job to train and educate people on how we actually teach and what that really looks like in the day-to-day environment. Yeah,
and I'm glad we brought that up, because you don't want that misconception out there, and things have really come a long way over the last 100 years in pretty much every medical field for sure. So
science is moving, and also what's happening now is people that were diagnosed as children with autism are growing up, and they have an opinion and a say about the therapies they received. And so that's kind of a shift in ABA as well.
That's a great point. You primarily offer care to kids with autism or special needs that are similar maybe to autism. Okay, I want to look at this from a parent's perspective. Sure. So a parent has a child, I'll give you a scenario, and maybe they notice some things about their child that are different. Of course, as a parent, that's something that's kind of hard to accept, right? Sure. It's we're all parents, you, I. Once they notice that, what would be kind of the next step for them? I would imagine they would have to go to someone and get a referral for your services. Is that how that works, or would they go directly to you?
No. So if you notice something that's not quite right, or maybe they're not meeting a developmental milestone, typically either a pediatrician notices, or they'll do a checkup at 18 months where they fill out kind of a screening. Some parents notice it before that point. They can bring it up to their pediatrician, but you can also get an evaluation from like a developmental psychologist, from a neurologist. There's a couple in the area, developmental pediatricians, and you can kind of go that route. Even psychologists Pediatric psychologists can also diagnose. So you could go and get a diagnosis from them, and then you have to have a diagnosis of autism for insurance to cover in Louisiana.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very,
Most
very
insurance
good
companies, I
point.
guess.
Yeah, which is important.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you want insurance to cover it if at all
Sure.
possible.
Sure.
Now, what would be some of the, I don't know if there's signs the parents would look for.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Basically, if you're looking at a child, I've talked to parents who's 6 months old and up. You're looking for like lack of eye contact, lack of joint attention. So if I'm pointing to something, are they following my point? Are they following my gaze? Are they looking to be held, attended to? Are they asking for your attention? Those kind of things. A lot of times what comes up with autism is a speech delay. So if your child is 2.5 and still doesn't have those words, that can be also a piece of it, or any kind of rigidity in behavior. So if you notice that every time we go to the grocery store, we have to walk the certain aisles, or he has to wear a certain shirt, or everything has to be exactly a certain way, and you kind of find yourself as a parent really tiptoeing around a lot of issues, I would just recommend going and getting an evaluation.
That's a great point. And autism, for those of us that are not in your field and do this kind of every day, one thing I do know is it's kind of a vast term. So there's several different forms of. Would OCD be considered a form of it?
No, but OCD is also what we would call, it's often a comorbidity. So it sounds horrible, but it's really just two diagnoses that typically go together. So ADHD and autism are often together. OCD and autism, you'll see those. ODD, sometimes you'll see an ODD
What is
diagnosis.
ODD?
Oppositional defiant disorder.
Okay.
So sometimes kids get this if they are really impulsive, different things like that, but don't quite fit the diagnosing parameters for ASD, they can get an ODD diagnosis. But,
gotcha.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you'll see together, but they don't necessarily fall on the spectrum. Now, Asperger's would be on that spectrum.
And Asperger's, explain what that is.
So typically, I think they're calling that now level 3 autism is typically what they're calling it. They have level 1, 2, and 3, and it's based on the amount of support that you need to do your day-to-day environment, to live your life.
Yeah.
And so a level 3 now, I think, is you would need the least support. So I think they're calling that an Asperger's type diagnosis.
Got you. And what is Asperger's for those that
Asperger's sometimes can be, like people watch movies and they're like, oh, autism is Rain Man, Asperger's Rain Man.
You're right.
And like, that's such a small % of the population of autism. And I think it's important that people know that obviously everything you're seeing in the movies is not exactly what people are actually living, or it doesn't really reflect what's going on.
Yeah.
But that would fall into there. Really, a lot of kids that have a lot of language, but maybe what we would call scripting. So they watch a movie or a TV show, they apply that to their life. So like they may just script it later in the day, maybe a scene from Mickey Mouse, and now they're using it, to get on the bus or different things like that. So a lot of repetitive language, and also really, really, really smart. So a lot of these kids with Asperger's have high IQs in certain areas, but may lack in other skills that, are needed to get to their day.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not an easy cutoff from 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
There are a lot of kids I see who have real high skills in math or reading or just science or even language, but then they're really low on some social skills or, just actually looking at people and interacting with their peers or sharing, those kind of things. That's
a great point. And so one thing, I hope that parents really grasp and understand is don't assume that this means they're not smart or that they can't learn. Sure. Like you said, a lot of these kids have extremely high IQs and could probably do, triple calculus or something.
And something that's really, really important is I think where we're at in 2021, almost 2022, we can be looking at, hey, everybody learns differently.
100%.
So what does this look like for a child that has a label of, autism? For me, it's access to services to teach them in a way that they can learn. Yeah. And so a lot of people miss out on this option as a service because they don't necessarily have that label. People are really scared or afraid to get their child diagnosed because they don't want to follow them through life and to be this really big hindrance. But you don't have to make it that way. It doesn't have to be something that you flaunt or even do it. Like, it can just be an access to way to get them to have services to then move forward.
I see the importance and the value in what you do. And I, from a parent's perspective, I understand that you want your child to be perfect. And it doesn't mean they're not perfect. Sure. It just means they're learning differently and they require a different form of learning, right?
Absolutely.
It's important to mention that you have been working with children for a long time.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience, how far it goes back in the field of ABA, and then even before that, working with kids.
Sure. So I've babysat. I think babysitting was my first job. I've been around kids forever. And then when I was 13, my parents had another kid. So then I was around a baby at 13, so I just kind of lived that, always having little kids around. Then I taught swim lessons, nanny for a little boy with cerebral palsy.
Which was a big point in your life, right? It was a big
point, yeah. And I just kind of figured out that, like, I love all kids, but I really love kids that need a little extra something. You know, I don't know what it is. And I know there's a lot of people that feel that way too. Like, sometimes kids that are typical, including my own, annoy me just a little bit more because I'm like, hey, you know how to do this and you're choosing not to. So you don't really have an excuse.
Right.
And so, it's kind of a big passion of mine. And then for the last 12 years, I've been doing ABA. I started as a line therapist, moved up, got my master's, and then became a BCBA. So
fantastic. And you're living your dream right now, right?
You
know, some people just fall right into their field, and it seems like you did. Mm-hmm. You can tell how much you love kids and working with kids and making a difference, which is what you're really doing.
Totally.
So, now, it's interesting with Grace Therapy Center that you offer a lot of services. Obviously, the first one that stands out, and the first one that I want you to kind of tell everybody about, and we'll unpack, is the working with the kids after they get that referral. Let's say.
So that's like our one-to-one, what we would call our comprehensive services. Mm-hmm. So this is for children who get a diagnosis and maybe don't meet prerequisites to go into a classroom environment. So we're talking a lot of conditioning. So people think, oh, like Pavlov, or like, and yeah, it's exactly like that, operant conditioning. And what does that look like? That looks like maybe a kid doesn't look you in the face because they don't know that faces are important.
Yes.
Maybe a kid doesn't listen to a voice because they don't know that voices are reinforcing, or that they aren't reinforced by, their behavior is not reinforced by a voice.
Yeah.
And so some of that, if you miss out on that as a baby, which is when those things happen, then you have to really teach them as they get a little bit older. So for us, that looks like.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Looking in our face, sometimes we put stickers all over our faces of their cape. So yesterday we had CoComelon stickers all over our faces, just trying to get the kid to look, and it really does work. And so then that whole time we're providing a lot of praise and a lot of reinforcers, sometimes some cotton candy, just to say, like, hey, looking at a face is really important. It's how you learn to talk. It's how you learn facial expressions. It's how you learn
to connect.
Empathy, exactly. Yeah. And so, people talk about eye contact, but that's not really what it's about. It's really about, are you looking at faces?
Yeah.
And we do the same thing through, like I said, voices. If your child may be struggling with speech, you need to look at, are they even listening to people when they talk in general? Yeah. And if not, then they're definitely not ready for a classroom, because teachers don't look you straight in the eye and teach to one kid.
Right.
Right? They're teaching to the 90%, and you better catch it. And that's just how that's set up. But if your child is not ready for that, then you really got to look at, why not, and how do we get them there?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up teachers. And, they're kind of like the other side of what you do, in the fact that hopefully, are teachers active about maybe communicating with parents in some cases and saying, it seems like maybe they're struggling a little bit with.
Yeah, I think this is a really sticky point. I work with a lot of preschool teachers, including a lot with Grace Life Preschool. We're really close with them. Obviously, we share a building with them. And so we do a ton of teacher training. I'm in and out of those classrooms observing and really walking teachers through, like, hey, it could be scary to tell a parent, hey, I'm seeing this, or I'm not seeing this still.
Oh, yeah.
But we're really working them of, like, hey, we're here to support. We can provide a support option. And so it doesn't feel quite as scary because it's like, hey, we have answers. It's not good luck. Go out into the community and hopefully your kid finds a spot.
Yeah.
So I think that by equipping people to feel like, hey, they have answers. Hey, you're not the bearer of bad news. It may feel like that, but you're really doing them a huge favor.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And, it is. It's touchy because we've all, had kids that were at that age and someone tells you anything that you would take as a negative comment. Totally. It's like, you're trying to say my kid's different? Oh no, that's not going to happen. And you get very defensive, right? And so from a parent's perspective, it's important to kind of just take that information in and then research it and see if it's something you need to pursue. And because there are options out there. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to show you that there are options out there, of people that love to do this. They're trained in this many, many years, and Grace Therapy Center is one of those places.
And I think it's interesting too, because sometimes it's about bridging the gap between that one-to-one comprehensive service and a classroom setting.
Yeah.
So when you look at one-to-one comprehensive, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, a lot of that is all the prereqs, the language development, really getting them to be ready to learn in that classroom. And then if they are ready or when they are ready, and if it's at a preschool age, we can just send them across the hall, right? Yeah. And then we have a class there that supports them, that developmental pre-K class.
Yes.
And so that's kind of, that area is expanding for sure. But it is about that gap in between, because you can't just send a child who's been in one-to-one therapy out into a school without a transition plan.
That's right.
So you have to be real careful.
Yeah, and you actually partner with that pre-K program, the developmental pre-K program that you offer. And who do you partner with?
Yeah, so Grace Life Preschool has right now one class, probably next year at least two. And in those classes, they're overseen by a BCBA, so a board certified behavior analyst, and they also have 2 line technicians in there as the aides.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a ton of support, and it's been really great this year to see those kids really fly who maybe wouldn't have done so well in a regular pre-K4.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things we're also doing today is we're educating parents on options. And you actually have like a parent education program for parents of kids with special, I don't know if you'd say special needs, I guess would be the proper term.
Even just parents who, find themselves in a constant negative.
Yeah.
Don't do that. No, if you do this, then this is going to happen.
Yeah.
All of that. And I know as parents, we get to that. I feel like especially around Christmas, we start threatening Santa and we start doing all these things, and it feels a little
The elves
odd.
are going away. Yeah. They're not going to come back tomorrow if you're bad.
Yeah. And then that's not true. I'm never going to put coal in my kid's stocking. That would be a terrible Christmas morning. That would ruin everybody, So it's not about that either. It's about teaching behavior we want to see for the future, not just constantly punishing. Because honestly, if you get in this cycle of punishment, it's not helping anybody.
No.
Everyone's miserable. So.
That's right, 100%. So tell us about these parent education when you kind of train these parents on what they're dealing with. I would imagine no matter what work you do, no matter how much quality it is, if the child then goes home and that is kind of unraveled, maybe would be a word, or it's not followed through at the home environment, it makes it really difficult, right?
Sure. And I think at the same time, we respect that parents are busy. Most of these people most of us are working. Right. We're coming home. It's dark now at 5. And you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with my kid? But this is about really incorporating it into your routines. So we offer parent education with our one-to-one comprehensive services for sure. That's a really, really detailed way to do parent ed. We also offer it just people call and say, hey, I would like to go through some parenting classes. We do it that way. We also do it in group settings. So we offer it a couple times a year where you can just come and get kind of all the basics of ABA, and then we usually stay behind afterwards and answer questions.
Fantastic. And tell me about the social skills camps that you do.
Yeah, so we have one coming up in December. It's almost full, but there's a few spots left. But basically, it is a class that we run that has kids who really are just peer models, no issues, that just want to come and hang out, and that's great. And then also kids who maybe struggle a little bit with making friends, or maybe they used to be in comprehensive ABA therapy. They've been in school and now they just kind of need a little refresher.
Sure.
Some parents use it as a way to get us to kind of spend some time with their kid and really get to know them. And so we get to do that as well. And then we get to make recommendations after that of hey, I think he's doing fine. Maybe you should try this, or things like that. But honestly, it's a super great time. Then we have one that runs weekly through the fall, and it'll start back up in the spring.
Yeah.
And then over summer and holiday breaks, we have like little short camps.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Fit Blends of Denham Springs can help you with everything from meal prep to supplements. I love it that they serve breakfast all day in addition to the best ultra healthy wraps you can really get anywhere in Livingston Parish. They are home of the $5 Smoothie Friday and are an amazing sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Fit Blends Denham Springs, fast, fit food for you. You know, you start in this program and maybe you go to the pre-K program and stuff like that. When does, or is there an end to this to where they end up going to regular school and things like that?
Sure. I think we have to remember that it's a spectrum, right? So
yeah,
it just depends
I'm sure
on where
varies.
you come in. Yeah, and what age we get the child in is different too. So, when we get 2-year-olds or 1-year-olds, that may look really different from getting a 5 or 6-year-old in. So sometimes kids stay in ABA until they're 12. I mean, it could be older than that. It depends on what skills they're needing. If the classroom setting is not good for them, public school, private school, it doesn't matter, then we can advocate to keep them. It depends on the goals of the parents and kind of where the child is at. So when we start them, we start with some goals and then we kind of systematically keep increasing those goals up. We use assessments that are based on like the Common Core standards. So we can really tell you, hey, this is where they're at in math and this is where they're at in reading, but look, their language is really low.
Right.
And so we're able to kind of give you the best predictor of, what does that look like going into first grade or second grade or third grade? So it just depends on the child. Like if they're ready for that preschool setting early, then we'll try it. If they're not, then we keep working on it.
Sure. And what is the, I guess, cutoff age for,
is there? There's not really a cutoff age. I think most insurances won't cover past 18. Right now, we're really equipped to take, our oldest is about to be 7. So that's what we have now. Would I accept older than that? For sure.
Yeah.
It just depends on the child and kind of what we're equipped to do.
Excellent. So right now you offer a very collaborative approach with regard to ABA and keeping, the family involved. That's important. Sure. Like we discussed earlier, no matter how great the work is that you do, it really helps when it's followed through at home. And it's important that whatever training that you're working with the children there is kind of enacted. And you work with the family and kind of show them, this is what we're working on, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. So we meet quarterly at least. We're in constant communication, especially for working on a lot of language goals. But yeah, we try to really incorporate those goals into their daily life. So some parents say, hey, I want my kid to bathe themselves, potty training, all those pieces that really, really affect them. Yeah. And they're the things that we can help with and either walk them through how to, increase those skills, or we can practice them here. We practice a lot of toothbrushing and, different things, and then we can transfer it home. Another big thing would be like sleep training. So, hey, my kid doesn't sleep in their own bed, or they used to, and now they don't anymore. So we work with that sometimes, and also feeding. So, hey, a lot of kids with autism have real limited diets. Certain color foods, certain textures of foods, just Chick-fil-A. I mean, that's a real popular one. Hey, my kid will only eat a Chick-fil-A nugget. Well, then what happens when on a Sunday? Yeah. What do you do? What's your plan? I mean, so it's like expanding all of those things.
They starve.
They buy it on Saturday.
That's what they do. That's right. And, one thing that's important to mention here is, look, with what you just mentioned, a lot of parents are going to say, oh, they're just picky eaters.
Sure.
There were some things earlier that we discussed where, like the eye contact, a lot of people tie that up to they're just shy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say that's not the case, but you really need someone with a lot of education behind them maybe to make that determination fully.
Sure. And it's all about health too. So, I mean, before I would work on a feeding goal, I would make sure that the pediatrician, are they gaining weight? Because they're still kids. They should be constantly increasing in weight. And, but sometimes what happens there is we'll feed them a ton of, like, the doctor will say, give them a bunch of Pediasure. Well, then they're not hungry. So then they're eating no regular food. Yeah. So some of it is like kind of a balance of, hey, yeah, they're getting the nutrition they need, but we can teach them to get that through what your family's eating. Because it's not very easy to cook 3 meals at the end of the day anyway.
Right.
For each kid that will eat something and then you know, so also 100%. Easing that up too.
Yeah. Very good. Now, in your questionnaire, you mentioned the wait to be credentialed for insurance was kind of, it was a challenge to say the least. Let's put it that way. And insurance is a challenge to say the least, even for people who have insurance. And you know how that goes. They code it wrong. And next thing you know, you got a $400 bill and you're like, wait a minute, this is not. That's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, it kind of brings me to my obvious question, which is, do you accept insurance and do your services require doctor referral in all cases, or is it just if you're paying with insurance?
So it depends. We accept most insurances, most major insurance companies we are now credentialed with. Still working on one last one, but everything else is good. And so including Medicaid and those different things.
Oh, good.
In Louisiana, it's a lot of Blue Cross, so we tend to get a lot of those different policies. It doesn't require a doctor referral if you don't have insurance necessarily. I don't really have any or many private pay patients because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
So most of them are either in a transition to try to hurry up and get a policy, especially at this point in the year. Everyone's policies are renewing in January. They're trying to figure out how everything works. And so, you don't necessarily, if you have insurance companies, your insurance dictates what you need as a referral.
Yeah.
So certain assessments done by the doctor, certain, follow-up visits and which kind of doctor. And so all that's dictated by your insurance company.
Yeah. But the good news is you do take insurance.
For sure.
And so who would you recommend someone go see if they have insurance and they're concerned maybe there's something going on? A neurologist would be who you'd recommend?
A neurologist, developmental pediatrician. There's one in town. Now they all have really long wait lists. So
sure.
I'm not going to act like they don't.
Yeah.
If you're pretty, and you're also going to get a different evaluation based on each one. So if you want the longer evaluation option, then you should see a psychologist. There are a few in town that are really, really thorough. And so it just kind of depends what you want. If you need it now and you need a hurry and you're okay with, a neurologist doing it, that's great.
Yeah.
Then if you can get on the list and get in, that sounds awesome.
Sure.
But it's going to be a much quicker visit.
Gotcha. So there's your answer right there, listeners. Now I asked you for kind of a why statement. I ask all my guests for something that I call a why statement that just kind of explains their goal and why they do what they do. And you said, and I want to quote this because I really liked it. You said to change the lives of children and their families by providing the most effective and efficient teaching possible. Every child can achieve amazing things, and it's my job to figure out how to support them. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. I mean, and it really does kind of sum up what you do. And you can tell that you got a lot of heart there involved in that statement. I also asked you about large influences in your life because I like to shout those people out. They had a big influence on why you do what you do. And I wanted to read that. You said, my professor, mentor, and friend, Grant Gotro, had the biggest influence on me professionally. So shout out Grant Gotro. He has always believed in me and pushed me to be a better behavior analyst. My dad, Terry Root, also had a giant impact on me personally and professionally, taught me to go for my dreams, suck it up when it gets hard, push through. I like that. And to follow Christ. Grace Therapy Center wouldn't exist if it weren't for him. Yep. Very good. Another thing I want to talk about is COVID. And, you opened up kind of shortly before that, if I'm not mistaken.
Right after COVID, basically. This year, 2021. So it's, we kind of made it through all the shutdowns and stuff where we were previously, and then just decided to take a risk this year.
How was that?
I mean, it's great.
A challenge?
It was a challenge, but I don't know if COVID was the biggest challenge of that moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like we kind of lived through the worst of it. And so now it was a time for people to get their kids back in services. And so I feel like we were able to kind of open up an option for that.
Yeah. And, I say this all the time on this show, but one of the positives to come out of that whole thing was the fact that it kind of forced business owners of all types to innovate and come up with solutions to run their business outside of what they were doing. And through that, some people actually found better ways to run their business.
Right.
I can name off several, but But you persevered. You made it through, and you're still here, and that's the good thing. Now, your work with kids takes place in a classroom setting, and I want you to kind of tell us about the setting itself for those out there that may be wondering. Would this? We did discuss that it would take the place of school, but is the classroom setting just that, like what people would consider a typical classroom?
No, it looks a little different, especially right now. So we're in Grace Life Fellowship Church right now. They're building a wing, an addition for us, so that will look very much like classroom building,
very good.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But we're in the beginning phases of that. So right now, actually what we've done is we've taken over the entire worship center, which is huge. And we have built divider wall classrooms. So when I say classrooms, it doesn't look like you're not going to have a smart board and desks and those things. We spend a lot of time on the floor playing. Remember, we work with a lot of small children. So our chairs and tables are very tiny. And so they all sit. They each have their own workstation. So they're a little more spread out than they would be in a classroom setting, less kids per class. But when they go play, they're all together. And, we spend a lot of time just running around on the floor trying to teach.
Awesome. And what how many kids per class on? I know that varies, but
it's
average.
I try to keep like 5 or 6 kids in a space together. But that could change and grow as we honestly move the divider walls around.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah. You can always expand that very easily. I can do whatever I want with it. I love it. So I asked you to define a leader, and you have the same definition I have, and that is a leader is to serve. Yeah. So servant leadership, it is leadership. You're really not a leader unless you're giving back in some way, shape, or form. The amazing thing about you is with what you do for a living, you're constantly giving back. You're giving back to all these kids with your knowledge and what you do and the parents. So another thing that business in general, but especially your business, I would imagine could take great advantage of, especially with regard to explaining what you do, is social media.
Sure.
How big a role has that kind of played on your business?
It was huge at first. So I kind of created a page and was like, hope for the best.
So
can
I get one follow?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that parents like to see, we're not really allowed to currently show faces of our clients. So it's a little bit tricky to get the backs of their heads and be creative and cute. But parents like to see us having fun. They like to see that it's a warm and, welcoming environment. They can see all those things. And so, it's been huge for us. I think people have shared a lot and kind of gotten word of mouth, especially for our social skills groups. I think we've kind of reached some people that maybe we wouldn't have reached before. Just through social media.
Yeah, it's a great platform for that. And I'm a big believer in when you're in a business where it requires some sort of understanding and explanation, social media is a great way to do that. And it's also a great way to let people know you exist, that you're out there. So people out there, when you hear this podcast, share it. Share it with everybody, because if one person sees it that did not realize that you existed or did not even realize this was an option, now they do. So that's the beautiful magic of that. I also wanted to bring up, speaking of media and social media, you're going to be in a magazine here pretty soon. Yeah,
so they just released a blog post this week for us and kind of our relationship with the church and the special needs ministry there. And so that went out this week. And then in January, we're going to be in the what's it called? The Follow the Leader. 225 Follow the Leader group. So, it just basically tells a little bit about Grace Therapy and, kind of what we're doing over here. So
fantastic. Another great, in 225 magazine, I'm a big fan, read it all the time. And what could be better? You're on Local Leaders, and then you're going to be Follow the Leader. So I think you're officially a leader. I mean, it seems like everything you're involved with has the word leader in it. So that's a good thing. One of the things we also do on this show is talk about fun facts. And this is just kind of a way to let people know who you are a little bit, a fun way of who you are outside of, all the great things you're doing with kids. And I asked you about a yacht, and you had said, I don't think I'm going to ever get a yacht.
I want to buy a yacht. Like, even if I had all the money, I don't think I'd spend it on a yacht.
I don't think I would either, honestly. But it's a great question.
I don't know what I would buy, but definitely not a yacht. Maybe like a chef.
Yeah.
Home chef or something.
Yeah. There you go.
To make my life easier. A yacht's not going to make that easier. So.
But I did ask you superpowers. If you can have any superpower. Do you remember what you said?
Was it about flying over traffic?
Yeah. Say another thing we want to shout out is we brought up social media and your website. Do you have a website? Would be the first question. Shout it out.
GraceTherapyCenter.com.
And do you have a Facebook? Which, yes, you do. And what's that?
Grace Therapy Center.
Easy.
Yeah.
You can go to Google and punch in Grace Therapy Center. But what we're going to do is we're going to link all of that to the description of this video. And that way, people don't even have to write it down. They can just go to the bottom, click it. It's going to bring them to your website. And hopefully, they'll get all the information they need in order to make an informed decision. So, I do want to thank you for all the great work you're doing. It's needed. It's something that is requires someone, as we said earlier, with a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. And you're someone that has been working with kids your entire life, right? Yeah. I mean, you babysitted them when you were little. That's tough. So shout out to you for that. I do want to thank everyone out there for viewing and listening to Local Leaders. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share it on all your social media platforms. I want to mention LOPA, which is the Louisiana Organ Procurement Center. Please consider giving the gift of life through organ donation. You can call lopa.org for more information or go to their website. Thank you to all our sponsors, including Trisha Johnston Realtor, William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance, BJ Pawn, Fit Blends, Denham Springs, Black Sheep Creative, SR Enterprise Painting, Adele Lane Spa and Boutique, Fit Body Boot Camp. We could not do any of this without all of you. And if you'd like information on sponsoring or appearing on the show, reach out to me at jim@localleadersofpodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local businesses just like Grace Therapy Center, and keep leading. Thank you very much. Black Sheep Creative understands the importance of digital marketing and your return on your investment. It's their aim to provide professional web and graphic design services at a price point that smaller businesses and startups can afford. Get in touch with them on the web at blacksheepcreative.com.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.